All right, everyone. On today's episode, Brad is back from his Red X month. What is that? Great question. We'll talk about it today. Households of Fi. Carol got the chance to chat with Roger. They're putting into plan a game plan for her finances. Fascinating conversation. And we're going to share with you a little bit about a new podcast that we're launching called the Talent Stacker Podcast with a focus on skills and ROI over maybe a degree at any cost. Welcome to the ultimate crowdsourced personal finance show. This is your Friday Roundup.
You're listening to ChooseFI Radio. The blueprint for financial independence lives here. If you're looking to unlock the secrets to financial independence and early retirement, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and join a community of like-minded people who are getting off the hamster wheel and taking control of their lives in the pursuit of financial independence. ChooseFI, your home for financial independence online.
Brad, first of all, I could say welcome back. I wanted to preface this by saying that I had the opportunity to speak with JD Roth this morning, and I was telling him that you had just gotten back from your Red X month, and he said, well, wait, what's a Red X month? And it's like, oh yeah, I almost take it a little bit for granted at this point. We heard about it from Vincent Puglisi back in the day, but I was introducing the concept to JD for the first time, and he was blown away. So first of all, welcome back, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, I am doing quite well. Yeah, it's been a good month, August here. So yeah, I guess the Red X month, right?
That's
And the most succinct way of describing it is, as Vincent told us. So Vincent from Freelance to Freedom fame and TotalLifeFreedom.com, he mentioned that you basically look at a calendar, you take a red marker, and you just put a big old red X through an entire month. And I mean, this is what FI is all about, right? It's about designing your life. It's designing how you want to spend your time. So yeah, I mean, obviously because of COVID and lockdown and such, our normal life has been upended a little bit, right? We had a big trip to Alaska planned. We were going to go to Vancouver and visit Marla and then take a cruise up to Anchorage. And, it was going to be fantastic, but we obviously had to cancel that. But that doesn't mean that everything was lost, right? It just means we have to pivot. And what we actually went up doing was going up to Laura's parents' house on Long Island. And we went there for almost 3 weeks and just stayed there and chilled out and saw family and went in the backyard pool for 10 hours a day and just relaxed. It was as close as I can come to kind of a digital detox as well. I think that's part of what I'm trying to do here is really just simplify. So what does a simple life look like? And for us, it looks a lot like family time. It looks a lot like board games. It looks a lot like just relaxing and spending time with the people that we love. So yeah, I mean, it was a wonderful month, Jonathan. It really was.
Awesome, man. Well, welcome back. I had someone in our group actually ask me, so Jonathan, Brad's getting back from his Red X month. What did you do with yours? I said,
sat around and did nothing, right?
Great question. It's funny. I think at some point I will be able to be the embodiment of the Red X month, and maybe next year will be a better year. But I wouldn't say that I was unproductive.
Oh man, Jonathan, I know you're going to tell everybody what you've been up to, but I felt so terrible. If there's, 168 hours in a week times 4. So, I mean, we're probably talking about 700 hours in a month, give or take. And I think you probably worked about 500 of them.
Yeah, that's what I did. So let me just clarify that actually ChooseFI was at steady state. We had done what we needed to do to allow Brad and myself to have a Red X month. We were worked out. We had a process in place. Team was ready. It was go time. It was good. And I ended up using the opportunity to work on 2 to 3 other big projects that I've been passionate about and haven't been able to find the time to really lean into. And yeah, that ended up being a breakneck pace. So in the past several months, it's 3 distinct things. One is I created a podcast course and a podcast membership. I'm not really talking about it right now because it's not available at the moment. I'm just working through it with some founding members right now, making sure they get good results. Well, I'll talk about it more on the show in about a month or so, but that was a lot of work. And then I realized that if I'm going to be doing this course on how to build an awesome podcast, it would be really cool to start a new podcast to demo for this group, like the process end to end, as opposed to, let me think back what I did a couple years ago. No, let me just start a new one now. And so I started the actual podcast is going to be called the Talent Stacker Podcast. And I was just thinking through like, what are the opportunities or what are the holes in the content? We produced a lot of content here at ChooseFI over the last several years. Where do I wish I could have gone farther that maybe we could create a community of people around? And for me, the biggest thing is skills versus degrees. On this show, we talk a lot about how to get a degree for less or how to build a new skill, but it's not a skill career driven show where every single week we're introducing a new career path. It happens occasionally, sporadically, but that's not why consistently you come week over week. I was like, I think right now, 2020 is this inflection point where that old model said, get the degree, and that became perverted and said, get the degree at any cost. And then we've kind of seen over the last 10 years, the system, the college system, the institution of college has kind of abandoned even proving out the ROI to their students. They don't even talk about it anymore. They just say, you're going to have 2 years, you got all these great amenities, you got whatever, it's college experience, football stadium, $100,000 of student loan debt, and a degree that you'll probably be able to do something with on the other side. Generally, all the statistics say it's valuable. But parallel to that, you see these programs where it's just focused on skill, certificate programs, the fact that you can learn nearly anything for free, but there's a little gap. How do you go from learning it to proving to an employer that you can do it and then getting a great ROI on that investment of your time? There's a little bit of a gap there, one that I personally feel is a pain point. What if this new podcast, the Talent Stacker Podcast, that again, I'm going behind the scenes and showing my community how I'm making it end to end. What if this podcast could exist to fill that gap, focusing solely each week on skills, on certificate programs, on career paths that don't mandate that you go take out. I think right now, Brad, I looked at 2019 stats where the average cost of college, $122,000. That was the MSRP on college, if you're going to use some card terminology. The college graduates, the average income that they're making in that first job, $50,000 a year. Those numbers, that's almost a 2-to-1 ratio. And in finance, we kind of say, well, you probably want to keep, your ROI on a degree and what you're paying for, you probably want to kind of keep it close to 1-to-1. So it's $50,000 for a career that pays $50,000. That'd be a reasonable ROI. But we're almost already seeing that the average student is getting about half of that. It's like the cost of college is twice what the expected income is their first year when they get that job, making it very hard for them to claw their way out and very easy to fall susceptible to this lost decade between 20 and 30. When you start to pair some of these threads that we've seen from the guest, you say, this doesn't have to be an outlier. Maybe this is the new normal. And maybe everybody that's saying you have to go to college, you're saying it with the best intent. Like the retrospective data says that you'll probably do better if you go to college. And maybe that was true for the last 20 or 30 years. This is day zero. I don't know if it's true for the next 20 years. And I can present to our community, I believe, based on the network that we found and people whose stories we're aware of, we can make a pretty compelling case that what is going to get you to financial independence, the earning vehicle that you use to get to financial independence is going to be more, there's going to be more emphasis on the skills as opposed to the degree. I don't know, Brad, I'd love for you to react to that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would tend to agree. And I think what we've seen this year with obviously the world upending, we're seeing a lot of disruption. And we're seeing industries laid bare where there were systemic issues that I think we all kind of knew in our heart of hearts. And we're seeing a lot of that disruption, probably a decade or 2 decades worth of disruption in 1 year. And I think, college education is one of the biggest, if not maybe the single biggest. And to your point, the college degree has become largely about signaling, just signaling that you did X, Y, and Z, that you're following the path, or that you got accepted to a certain university. It's not saying I learned anything or I learned this specific skill, right? And that's not to denigrate colleges. Obviously, you and I both had great college experience, all that stuff, but the world moves on, right? The world moves on and it's extraordinarily expensive now. And I don't know that I would have made the same decision in 2020 that I made when I went to college, right? So it is ripe for this disruption. And it's cool that you're thinking that way. And I think that's where you're going, right? With Talent Stacker.
Yeah. So I've released my first episode, which to be honest with you, for people in this community, you know how I feel. Just as a result of this episode, you know how I feel. It was just an introduction to say this conversation is worth having. We're going to do it. But this upcoming Monday, it's going to be the second episode of the Talent Stacker podcast, but really it's the heart of where I wanted to go with this. I'm not just going to paint a macro idea. I think we have a solution. a solution that will change your life. I know that sounds really grandiose, Jonathan. Can you back that up? I think we can. Brad, thank you for that great question. I think we can. This upcoming Monday, I don't want to spoil it, but if you tune in, just you're listening to a podcast player, just search your podcast app for Talent Stacker and press subscribe. This upcoming Monday, we are going to be interviewing Bradley Rice. And in this episode, we are going to share a career path that you can go from no talent stack, no career, no experience. So this is your day zero right now. I don't care if you're 17 or 55. You haven't done this before, but you fancy that you can figure out computers. You can't code. This isn't coding. I'm not going to understand how to do JavaScript or Python at the end of this, but I'm decent with computers and I understand how to help people get what they want. I understand managing customer relations and I'm decent at communication. If that in any way describes you, or at least you're open to the idea of learning it, we're going to map out for you how over a period of 6 months, you can retrain into an industry that you can be making a minimum of 60K, likely as much as 80K in your first year with the ability to scale into the 6 figures. And if that weren't enough, we're going to show you how you, one, can do it for free if you want to do it for free, or two, we are actually creating a job membership program, and there's a lifetime guarantee accessed on this, right? We are going to work with you over a period of 6 months, and we believe actually inside of 6 months, you can be working in this new job, in this new career, making that $60,000. But the lifetime guarantee is, or we will work with you as long as it takes for you to get that. And I think this has to be the focus going forward, not just this program, but more examples like this with a community that is dedicated to helping you get results driven. I feel like the institution has abandoned the obligation to explain to you ROI. They have assumed that you've been in the funnel since you were 5 or 6 years old, that your parents told you, that your teachers told you, that everybody told you. It was just important to do. And they never came back to you with, here are reasonable expectations, and this is what it can make, and this is why it would be a great option for you among many options. That's what this is. It's like, let's put the focus back on the skills so you choose your own path, right? Pick what works for you based on your own interest, but let's not leave ROI just at the door. Because there's a way that you can have remote work, flexible schedule, a fun work environment with a growing company, and you can make a fantastic living and you can work towards financial independence.
Yeah, Jonathan, this is cool. And it really, as you were talking about this, and again, you've been working on this on your own, so I'm just getting up to speed here. But the 6-month thing, that actually reminded me that I just was reading an article on Inc. magazine's website about how Google is having their Google Career Certificate. So it is almost identical to what you're doing.
I was rocked to my core when I saw the article. My podcast trailer was already in the universe, is ready to go. And then I see that we have to have that linked in the show notes, Brad. In fact, let's pull it up and read just a blip from it.
No, I've got it right here. So, I mean, there's a couple of things in this article that's saying the courses should take about 6 months to complete and will cost a fraction of a traditional college degree. And there's a quote here from Kent Walker, who's the Senior Vice President of Global Affairs at Google, who said, quote, "We will consider our new career certificates as the equivalent of a 4-year degree for related roles." And Jonathan, this is the part I didn't even realize until I scrolled down, is they actually have a consortium of 50 employers who can tap into graduates of this certificate program. So it's not just Google, it's Walmart, Intel, Sprint, Bank of America, PNC, Best Buy, H&R Block, all these companies. So, I mean, this is the way things are moving here, which is remarkable. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you and Bradley are at the forefront here.
We will see, man. But I would like to every single week or biweekly. I think the cool thing is because ChooseFI is so regular, it's so cadenced, we have it down. I don't feel the need to just produce an episode every week, just to produce an episode on the Talent Stacker side. You know, it's if I have something. So if it's a weekly stack, if it's how skills as they show up in the news, different career tracks. In 1999, my career selection basically came down to a single Google search. And it isn't good enough. It didn't provide you enough data to pick a career or profession with all the information that you would need. I think in 2020, it's the exact opposite. It's information everywhere, but you still are responsible for curation, synthesis, and figuring out what works for you, vetting it to make sure that it's true, that it's valid, that it's not a waste of time and resources. But on the flip side of that, in 2020, when information is so ubiquitous, when you truly can learn anything from your cell phone in your pocket, you have that much computing power available to you. Do we really still need 4 years to learn a skill to a degree to which now we can go out into the workforce? Does it really take 4 years? I think 6 months. For the vast majority of entry-level jobs, let's take a look at the type of job we want. Let's scale that back to the skills we need. Let's give ourselves 6 months. And we all know that we learn by doing, all of us. I don't care what type of learning method you have, kinesthetic, audio, There's more. Visual. It doesn't matter. At the end of it, it all comes together because you learn by doing, right? And so why would you wait 4 years to learn by doing? Just start doing it. And I think the mission of this show will be to highlight those who have done and how you can do. All right. A little subtle pitch there. I just am excited about the project. I'm excited that it exists. And for people in our audience, go check it out. You can just look for Talent Stacker. Look for that on your podcast player of choice. You will find us. And while you're there, subscribe, rate, and review. That would be fantastic. Hey everyone, back by popular demand, we're going to be offering our entrepreneurship summer camp this fall as our fall challenge to young business owners. And Brad, I know we've actually talked about in the show, but this has had a massive impact on your family.
Yeah, Jonathan, you're absolutely right. My kids went through the Simple Startup workbook and it made them think like entrepreneurs. And it was just so refreshing to see the questions that they came back to me with while they were going through the book. And that has extended for months now to the point where my older daughter, Anna, and her friends are now potentially starting up an animal grooming business, which is really, it's just so exciting to see them get together and talk through. They've spent hours on the phone just talking through all the ins and outs. And the genesis was this book.
Yeah, this has proven to be a fun and very successful program for entrepreneurs. And I'll just say this, we've said it before, but it's so true. It's more true now than ever. Not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur, but everyone, especially your kids going into the future, they need to think like one. This Simple Startup will do that. So the course, it's going to be a virtual course that's going to run from October 5th to December 11th. It's an $80 entry fee, which does also include a copy of the workbook. Registration is open now. So if you're at all interested, make sure you register. We did 2 of these over the summer and they sold out incredibly quickly, but we want to make sure everyone is actually getting their course materials on time. You're going to get actionable life skills in creating, marketing, and running a business for your student. For more information, go to ChooseFI.com/fall challenge. That's one word, ChooseFI.com/fall challenge for more information.
All right, we have some exciting news. ChooseFI Publishing is putting out its latest book. This is entitled Raising Your Money Savvy Family for Next Generation Financial Independence. And you heard the authors on episode 232. It's Doug Nordman, who is no stranger to the financial independence community, and his daughter, Carol Pittner. And if you have kids, or if you think you might one day have kids, if you have grandkids, if you know kids, this is a fantastic, fantastic book. It's a great gift. These are the tips and tricks and strategies that Doug and his wife used to present the concepts of financial independence to Carol. And it's remarkable to see it from both of their perspectives. That's the coolest part about this book, that Doug presents, but Carol talks about, how did I receive this? And what did I take action on? And we think this is critical for furthering this concept of second generation FI. Every bit of information that we can get out there is just extremely, extremely helpful. And Doug and Carol just knocked it out of the park with this book. So if you're looking to order the book, head to ChooseFI.com/nextgen. That's NEXTGEN. ChooseFI.com/nextgen.
All right, man. Hey, I want to switch gears here and pivot back to the Households of FI series that we have going on. And I know today we're doing a follow-up with Carol. And Brad, why don't you catch us up with where Carol was at the last time we chatted with her?
Yeah, so Carol is one of our 8 households of FI that we are following on their journey to FI. She found this concept in 2020, and she sent in her original voicemail and video, and you can find that on ChooseFI.com/documentary. It's a really great video. And she basically said she is financially illiterate. She's in her mid-50s. She doesn't want to be a burden to her child. She just wants to be able to retire someday with financial security. And she has had credit card issues throughout her life. She has had really what boils down to a deprivation mindset when it comes to money. She talked about it coming in, and she wanted to spend it before it got taken from her, right? So this is a mindset that she's trying to overcome now in her middle 50s. And we wanted to get her a real subject matter expert on retirement. And we thought naturally of our friend Roger Whitney from the Retirement Answer Man podcast and the Rock Retirement Club. And Roger chatted with Carol, which we're going to play for you here shortly. And they just really came up with a plan. And it's phenomenal. And Jonathan, you and I will be back on the backside of this to talk about our big takeaways.
All right, guys. So with that, maybe you're listening to this and you kind of feel like you've come to a little bit of a fork in the road. You're not satisfied with your current course, but you don't know what your other options are. Maybe even us talking about the whole idea of skills and ROI kind of prompted this. Oh, maybe I could just do something different. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe I don't have to go back to college or when I was 17 or 18 to get a reboot. Maybe I could just make this pivot even now. But you're like, well, on top of that, I'm also dealing with some financial baggage. What would be a framework for that? I think this is kind of a two-pronged approach here. And with this conversation, let's see what Roger had to say.
So my name is Roger Whitney, and I've been a financial planner for 25 years plus. I say the plus now. I'm 53, so you just say plus.
Yes.
And I only work with people that are transitioning into retirement. And I have a podcast. It's called Retirement Answer Man, which has been on for 6 years or so. So all we think about is how do you prepare and transition into retirement. And then I have a book called Rock Retirement, which I'm happy to send you if you'd like one.
I would love one.
That talks about all the little baby steps that you do. So Carol, is this the first step in the journey?
This is my first step. I've been dabbling a little bit, but I am financially illiterate. So I really need as much help as I can possibly get.
Don't we all? Don't we all? Well, it sounds like you've taken a lot of big steps from watching your initial explanation. You're really diving into the subject, and it sounds like you've been very proactive, actually.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm reading as much as I can. I'm listening to as many podcasts as I can. I'm working to pay off the debt that I have, which I'm pretty proud of that because I cut it almost in half. So I'm really focusing on that instead of focusing on today, which is what I've always done.
And it sounds like you have a good new job, which is pretty impressive considering everything going on this year.
Yeah, that was a really scary move because my start date was 1 week after everything shut down here in Utah anyway. But I got really fortunate. The company that I work for was able to pivot in 72 hours to have everyone working from home and to be able to do the training. So that was really nice.
Very nice. Is that going well?
It is going well. The biggest kind of roadblock is that, I'm a salesperson, so I've always made a salary and a commission. And because of the shutdown, my job is selling insurance, and I couldn't get licensed in the state of Utah because all of the testing centers were shut down. So this is actually the longest in 25 years that I've gone without having a sales commission and just having to live off of my base salary.
So what do you think the first step in this process should be of cleaning up the debt and start working towards getting financially independent from a getting ready for retirement standpoint?
Well, I think for me, the first step has to be, all of these things, paying off the debt, getting an emergency fund established, start aggressively saving for my retirement. But it's also a mindset shift for me because of the way that I look at money. So I'm trying to kind of shift that as well. So that's really going to be like the foundation for me. I have to stop thinking that if I have money, I have to spend it because I might not have it tomorrow.
Mindset is pretty much everything, isn't it, when it comes to money? So talk to me a little bit about the mindset. So tell me where you were a year ago and where you see yourself today.
Well, a year ago, I was just kind of floating through, and I've always I've always lived by, if I have money, I need to spend it because it might not be there. And so this thing that I think I need or I think I want, if I don't get it now, I might not be able to get it later. So I've always the money comes in and, I thought I was being a responsible adult because my bills were all paid on time. Nobody was coming after me saying, you owe me money. I was being very responsible, but then every penny after those bills were paid, I just spent it. I was just like, I got some cute little grandkids and so I was more than happy to spend my money. And now today I have a budget. I'm not a good budget person. I really, really struggle with that. But I when I get paid, I give myself my grocery money and the money for gas in my car and a little bit of spending money. And then I know this much has to go to my bills. And then everything else I just put into my savings. And I'm contributing to a 401k for the very, very first time. So I'm excited about that.
You talked about this money mindset that you grew up with, and we all do. And I had a similar one where I just wanted to be the one that bought dinner and help people. I remember you talked about that in your video. There's two ways to approach that issue, right? One is just toughen up and change your mindset, which is important, but that takes time. And we're in our 50s, so we're ingrained a little bit. Another way that might be helpful for you is to just set up a system so you capture your excess money and not even have the temptation.
Mm-hmm.
That lead me not into temptation is pretty powerful. That might be one thing that we can talk about today. Then we can talk about what do you do next after that.
Okay.
So I imagine this is pretty intimidating. 56, you're trying to get out of debt. You want to move to the East Coast. Sort of hard to know where to start, isn't it?
And it's pretty scary because I don't have any role models in my life. My parents have a fairly comfortable retirement, but not really because of anything that they've done. My dad worked for the state, and so he retired with a really nice pension. So if it were not for that pension, they would be trying to scrape by on Social Security. So I don't have anyone in my life who's like, okay, this is what I'm doing, or this is how I got here. So I feel like it's uncharted territory.
You can do this, though. You can do this. It's just going to be incremental steps. So it's always going to feel slow, right? It's sort of like exercising. You want to be in shape by the next day, but it just takes time, right, for it to work. So I think the first thing I would suggest is that you make sure you focus on that. I like to call it the WHAM. I didn't mean to make it an acronym, but it worked out that way. You can look at all these things and this big hill you have to climb in terms of cleaning up the debt and saving for retirement, but ultimately focus on what do I do next? What's the next little thing? And as little as you can make it, that way it's achievable. And then just get help on how you do it, right? Okay, if this is the next thing I'm supposed to do, how do I do it? And then find whether it's a community or a person to give you some assistance or encouragement or a kick in the butt when you need it. And then just get it done. And then that will create some momentum. And then you just go back, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? And I think with the ChooseFI community and other online communities, I think you can find that even if you don't have the role model in your life there locally, right?
Right. I'm kind of an introvert, so like jumping into those conversations is usually really uncomfortable for me, but I'm trying to be better about it.
Yeah, even if you're not talking, you can start to listen to people that you want to emulate some part of them, right? I'm assuming in the community you have normal contributors, and some of them you resonate with, and not like you want to be exactly like them, but they may have an attribute.
Right.
So you can have virtual mentors. So you have this question about how do I capture money and do I pay off my credit card or do I continue saving? What would you say is the one next thing you want to make sure you figure out how to answer?
I think that's kind of a big one for me right now is which is more important? Is it more important to pay off my credit card or is it more important to have an emergency fund? Because, in the past, my credit card was my emergency fund. So I've been trying to funnel money into my emergency fund so I don't need to run up the credit card after I've paid it down. Because right now, I'm paying a little bit more than the minimum because some of my circumstances have changed, but I'm paying a little bit more than the minimum payment. And then I'm putting about $200 a month into my emergency fund. So should I just hyper focus on paying that debt off, or is it better to like split it like it is until I have some type of emergency fund?
Okay. Now, explain your living situation again.
Well, that's one of the things that has changed. I was renting a basement apartment, not really an apartment. I didn't have a kitchen down there, but from my daughter and son-in-law. I was living down there, and that was helping me to pay off some of my debt and things like that. It was also helping them having me there. And then coronavirus hit. And I don't know if you have children, but I have a 6-year-old grandson and a 9-year-old granddaughter, and 3 adults trying to work from home with a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old who were no longer in school. Just there was no quiet place in the house. And then my daughter got pregnant again. So now they're going to have another new baby. So they really needed the space that I was using for their home offices so that they had a place that they could work away from the children, and then, free up space for the new baby and stuff like that. So now I'm in an apartment by myself, which of course has changed my financial situation because I'm paying more money for rent and stuff. So that's where I am now.
Okay. And then when is the last time you used your credit card?
To be honest, I can't remember. Yeah, it's been a while. And that was one thing that I was, I can't remember. My daughter got married in November. So that's the last time that I used my credit card, was to pay for some of the stuff for her wedding. But that's the last time.
Okay. So you don't use the credit card normally. That's important. And your job is going well, and you feel stable in it?
Yeah, I feel really stable in it. And now that I've been able to get licensed, then I'm going to be able to start earning commission again. So that will help accelerate paying off the debt and building that retirement fund.
Okay. And from an employer perspective, you feel like they're happy with the progress and...
Yeah.
Okay, good. Last time in the video, anyway, you had about $2,400 in savings. That about where it's at now?
Yeah. I used a little bit of it during the move, and so then I put it back. So it's about the same.
Okay. I would focus every extra dollar to paying off the credit card debt, because most likely it's high interest, right?
Yeah.
I would do that. And then the second thing I would do is to set up a system for how you manage your money, because you talked a lot about the money mindset. One, from how you grew up with your parents and feeling like if it wasn't spent, somebody was going to take it. But then the other one of you're a generous person.
I love to be generous.
I do too. I know. Now it's time to be generous to yourself, right? So you can be generous to others. And so when you receive income, where does it come into?
Currently, it comes into my checking account, and then I have something set up, but it's very manual. It comes into my checking account, and then I have another checking account, and I transfer like the grocery money and gas for the car and my spending money into that account, so that when I'm using my debit card, it's just that account and not the main account. And then that main account, all my bills are paid out of there, and then I take the extra and transfer it to savings.
Okay. And so you pay out of 2 different accounts for 2 different things.
Right.
One thing that you might consider is having all of your deposits go into your savings account.
Okay.
And then once a month, transfer out the money you need for your 2 checking accounts.
Okay.
Is your savings account at the same bank that both of those are at?
My savings account is at the bank that my check is deposited into.
Okay. Because a lot of times what happens is we spend what we see, right? Whatever we see when we go log into our bank account, that's like our pot. And so a mental mind trick we can play to set ourselves up for success is to have all of our income come into an account that we don't see when we log into our normal spending accounts. So you could delink your savings account so you don't see it, or you could have it at a separate institution. And this is how we run our household and have for years, mainly because I would always want to spend it on the family or stuff or what have you. So what do you receive a month?
Now that they are taking my my 401k, which I'm so proud of, and my health insurance out of that, it's about $2,018 a month. I say about, but it's $2,018 a month.
This is without commission.
Yes.
And so how much do you need for your normal bills?
I need $1,500.
And then how much for the separate checking account?
I spend about $200 a month on groceries, about $100 on random savings, and then $60 in gas.
So about 360.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the baseline without commissions.
Yes.
And this is also contributing some money to your 401k, contributing money to paying off the debt a little bit above the minimum.
Yes.
And then the excess money just sort of builds up in there.
Yes.
So what are you going to do with your first commission check?
Well, with my first commission check, I want to see how often I can change my contribution to my 401k, because open enrollment for health insurance is October. So the end of the year, the beginning of the next year is when my biggest commission checks will come. And so at that time, I would like to be saving 50 to 60% of my income. So I need to see how often I can change that, because I can very easily survive on 50% of my income once I start making commission. So I just want to dump it into an account somewhere. I'll probably take half of it and pay on my credit card, and half of it and put in my 401k or another account. I have an M1 finance account that I don't really know what to do with.
Okay. One suggestion might be is get rid of the credit card. Let that be the number one focus.
Okay.
I'm assuming that the interest on it is 15 to 20% if it's a high interest credit card.
I think it's 13 something.
Okay.
I think when I checked, it was 13. My Kohl's was like 24, so I paid that off.
I would, sprint to get the credit card paid off, and then start saving a cash reserve into your 401k.
Okay. I do have a question about that. My company, they offer a 401k and a Roth 401k. So I don't know what the difference is. I'm saving 10% of my income. I think it's going into the 401k, but I don't really know what the difference is.
Okay. A traditional 401k, when you put $1 in, it's $1 that you don't pay any tax on as if it was your income.
Okay.
And then it will grow tax deferred, meaning it won't get taxed each year. And then when you take it out, ultimately, if you take out $1, it'll be like you earned it. It's taxable income. So it defers all the taxes associated with it. A Roth 401k is the exact opposite. You put in $1 and you pay tax on that $1 today, but it will grow tax-free. And then whenever you take out that $1, even if it's grown into $20, you don't pay any taxes on it.
Okay.
So one, you get the tax benefit today. The other one, you get the tax benefit when you take it out.
Okay.
Those are the differences.
Okay. And I know that there is a 401k limit to the amount that you can contribute. Is that between those two accounts, or can you contribute that maximum to each 401k account?
So you can contribute the maximum to one 401k account, whichever it combines up to.
Okay.
So ultimately, that's going to be, $15,000 plus a year, depending on what year. And so that's a great goal to hit, to start to be saving, and hitting that maximum.
Yes.
And then once you hit that maximum, then you can, okay, now what next?
Right.
Where can I save next? So what do you think is going to be the two biggest levers you can pull to really jumpstart your finances and achieve the things you want to achieve? What would you think the two levers that you need to focus on?
Well, the first lever is commission. Make as much commission as I possibly can. And, really, you have to spend less. It doesn't matter how much money you make. You can't spend every penny that you make. So this is kind of like a rough transition for me, because I'm like, I don't want to spend all of this money on rent. I don't want to, but I was able to find a really good deal. So I'm not going to beat myself up too much about that, but I need to make more money. Bottom line, I need to make more money, and I need to get my spending as low as I can. And that's, I need to get rid of that credit card. I need to not be frivolous. And, I have a new grandbaby coming. So it's like anything in me not to, look at this cute little thing.
You hit on the two most important things. right? So if you think of this as project management, a project is like having to do the laundry, right? The clothes are dirty. What's the next step? And then what's the next step after that? We know that.
Yeah.
So if you need to earn commissions, then you start to think of that is going to be one of the biggest shovels you have to make all of this work, is to hone your skills and build your network and have consistency, right? So that's definitely one of the biggest shovels. And then holding on to the money, I think, is important. And I think step one is, if you have the money, go to an account and then dole it out to your 2 checking accounts, and then have that account that receives your income, not something that you look at or have visibility too often. So when you're in the store with your daughter, oh, that's cute. In your mind, you should only think, I only have that much in my account. So
Yeah, I tried doing a cash only thing for a while, but that didn't really work. Especially, once COVID hit, because you order your groceries online, you go pick them up. So if you have cash only, you can't order them online. And so.
Well, one idea would be to do cash only for gifts. Just give yourself, I don't know whether it's $50, $100. I don't know what the number is. Maybe you take X amount, we'll just say it's $100, and put it in your wallet, and then that's your gift budget.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You don't spend gift off of credit card or off of your account, because that money is accounted for you.
Yeah.
So that might be a good idea.
That's a good idea.
So what's the next action you should be taking?
Well, the next action that I should take is just to work very hard. But I also am trying to figure out a whole side hustle thing. I've written a book as well. I published it like 2 years ago. I actually have 2, but I'm working on another book. I already have it edited. I just need to go through and do all this. So that's kind of one of the side hustle things that I want to do. And then I'm looking for another side hustle, another way to create additional income outside of my job. So.
Okay. When it comes to what's going to have the most power in the near term, how are you going to divide your time between the side hustle and commissions?
Well, a side hustle is just that. It's the side. It's, my job is guaranteed income. I can affect that every minute of every day. So that's where my energy goes first. I like to write. So that's something that I can do for, an hour or 2 in the morning or an hour or 2 in the evening. But I'm never going to let that take away from my job, because I'm not J.K. Rowling or Stephen King. I need this job to pay my bills, to fund my retirement. This is my focus, and kind of everything else is just like, oh, well, let's see. But it's definitely a when I have the time kind of thing.
Okay. And I think that's an important distinction, especially with you're at, because you're just jump starting.
Yeah.
It sounds like the 2 big focuses are set up a system so you can not be in temptation to give everybody and give too much, because you're a generous lady, and to allocate that excess savings. Because once these commissions start coming in and you go from roughly $36,000 to $60,000, that's a huge jump. That is, relative to where you're at now, life-changing in terms of a cash flow perspective.
Yeah, that's the money I've always spent all my life, because I've always had sales jobs, and it's just like, oh, look at all this money they gave me. So let's buy this.
So it sounds like you have ample reserve savings. I would focus every extra dollar on paying the credit card off.
Okay. I want to get out from under that.
Yeah, pay that off. And then once you've accomplished that, then you can start increasing your 401k. And then once you max that out, then you can go from there.
Okay.
I really wouldn't think of anything else other than that thing. Get the credit card paid off. Get the credit card paid off.
Okay. That is perfect, because I want to get that credit card paid off. I've carried credit card debt for 15, 17 years. I had credit card debt when I was married, and that was a whole big thing through the divorce, just not any fun at all. And then I needed to rebuild my credit after the divorce. And so I started with a secured credit card. And of course, they're more than happy to increase your limit. but I've carried a balance on that card for 17 years. And when I think about that, when I think about how much money I've given them, basically for the privilege of using my own money because I didn't save for something, I mean, it's just insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, that will be a big day when that credit card is gone and you keep it gone. That's life changing.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset. And then when you start to build up some savings, where if an emergency hits or something really important that you need to take care of for somebody else, you can just access your savings.
Yeah.
That's like one of those flag posts in a journey financially.
Yeah. And I'm going to get there. I am going to get there.
I have no doubt. And the hard part when you're exploring all of personal finance, whether it's ChooseFI or our show or other books or things like that, is there are a lot of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh, maybe I should be doing that strategy. Oh, maybe I should be doing that strategy. And we squirrel. I'm a victim of this all the time. If you can just focus on pay the debt off, and then how do I have my money deposited into an account that I don't see every day? Then I just go in there, whether it's once a month or twice a month, and dole it out and then leave it alone. That's how you're going to build wealth. So those are two relatively straightforward things. And then all of your mind can be focused on commissions and your side hustle, which is really going to be the big shovel that's going to make all this work.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah. And then have you shared this journey with anyone, like your daughter or anyone else?
I have a little bit, but I have to tell you that I've been excited about things in the past that haven't worked out. And so I think a lot of people are, a wait and see. My daughter thinks that, it's great and it's something that she and her husband want to look into. But, they keep thinking, oh, we have time. And I'm like, you really don't. You really don't. You go to sleep one day and you're 27 and you wake up 2 days later and you're 56. You really don't have time. And I have friends who are my age. And when I talk with them about retirement, they're like, there's no money. I don't have one extra penny of money that can be put into an account. I'm not going to change my lifestyle. And I just say, well, what do you expect your lifestyle to be when you retire if you're not willing to give a little bit right now? And so I think, hopefully I will be able to set a good example for people and they will want to make a change.
Now, have you considered, since you're a writer, writing about your journey?
Yeah, I've been writing about it. I've actually started a little blog that I haven't really done much with, but I write every day. So, I journal a ton and stuff. So I have all of these random thoughts and activities that I've written about and stuff. So,
well, you are obviously fairly transparent, right? You're talking to me, and this is going to be shown somewhere in some way. I have a good friend who has a blog called The Retirement Manifesto. His name is Fritz. Wonderful man. And he did a lot of things right. And he started a blog sharing his journey in making the transition and how to use his capital to create paychecks and everything else. So the journey is a little bit different than yours. But he started the blog because that's how he thinks.
Yeah.
And it helps him stay focused. But what ended up happening with him is a lot of other people were in the same situation that he was and were resonating with what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And so for you, my thought is, we see this with younger people. I see them all the time on Twitter. Oh, this is how I paid off debt in 28 days or whatever. We don't see a lot of people that are in your position actively looking at becoming the next better version of yourself, like we all are, and being willing to be transparent about it, which is hard. Most people don't. There's a lot of people in your same situation.
Yeah.
A lot.
And money's a difficult thing to give people your numbers. That's a difficult thing.
And so what ends up happening is a lot of us hide in the closet. I don't want to say in shame, but just are not really proud of that. I don't really want to talk about it. And obviously you're self-confident enough that you are, and that's a huge step. But I guess my point is, if you were to write, you write daily, if you were to write very short things daily about your journey and have a comment section, you may collect readers that are on a similar journey that you can have as your foxhole buddies. And I don't know if you feel this or not, but no doubt you're at a place where you're going to be an inspiration to people that haven't got to where you're at mentally yet.
I hope so. I really hope so, because I know how scary this was for me to think about, because it is a lifestyle change. I mean, you've always done this, but what's the definition of insanity? So, I mean, it was a huge shift for me, and it's been really different to say, nope, sorry, bud, we're not going to go and get ice cream because, Nanny has cookies at home, or, when usually I'd be like, oh, let's go get all the ice cream in the world,
And that would be a good daily journal for you. And you see this, and literature says this, or research says this. If you can teach something, you own it a lot more.
Right.
Especially if you do it publicly. I remember like my podcast, when I started it 5 years ago, it had some lame name of like Plan Well, Invest Wisely. And then I switched it to the Retirement Answer Man. And I remember thinking, who am I to say that that's what this show is called? It's not like I know everything. So it felt like I was sort of an imposter. I was a little worried about that. But what I found was by doing it, it sort of put the gauntlet down to challenge me to live up to it.
Yeah.
Right? And so by you doing a daily journal about your spending, maybe, or about your gifting, or your journey to paying off the credit card debt, it sort of holds you accountable. And then you'll collect people that will be your support group, and you'll probably encourage a lot of people too.
Okay. I need to focus on that more. Yeah. I have it in, notebooks, but I need to put it in a blog instead of just in my notebooks.
And then maybe Sam or whoever is listening to this from the ChooseFI community, maybe they can have somebody that would be willing just to create a basic blog for you that you can log into and share your journey. That might be a good part of their project, but really of your project. This is all about you.
That's awesome.
I like that idea because you don't have anybody around you to, I get the whole thing of, they've seen me get excited about something a million times. I mean, at our age, we have so many things that we've done that. Okay, so the big steps for you are: 1, kill the credit card.
Kill the credit card.
Sprint to the credit card. And then 2, figure out a way of any extra dollars you get, put someplace you don't see it.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, I'll open another account. I'll go Saturday and open an account and change how things are deposited.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind, really, it's worked for us and our family. And then the other ideas I think we had from this was maybe give yourself cash for gifts. And that's the only place you gift. And that way you can have that gift experience, but do it in a managed way.
Right.
Yeah. And really the gift is less about the thing, and it's more about, it could be a sucker. It doesn't have to be a car. Yeah. We did a show on gifting not that long ago, and it's really about trying to transfer your goodwill to someone else. It's not the thing, right? So, and then focus in the blog. Obviously, we talked about that. And then the commissions, your income is going to be the biggest determinant of this.
Yes.
And enjoying that process and not feeling like it's a burden. You seem to have a joyful spirit. So,
yeah, I like sales. For so long I was like, oh, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a sales. No, that's not me. I love sales. It's who I am. It's what I do. And I mean, I'm good at it.
Any other questions for me?
No, I can't think of any offhand. I mean, I have my 401k, and only 10% is going in there right now because I figured that was like where I wouldn't die if I put 10% in there. So I am going to check and see how often I can change that, because I'd like to change it and raise it quite a bit through the winter when the commissions will be highest. And then I expect that even going into the spring, I should be able to save 30 to 40% into my 401k. Even if that turns out not to be realistic, it's still a goal that I'm going to shoot for. And that's, if you don't have a goal, then you're just flailing about in the dark. And I've done that long enough. Yeah, I was really excited like at the beginning of this whole pandemic, like before it really started, I put $300 in an M1 finance account that someone had paid back, kind of an unexpected windfall. So I was like, oh, let's see it. And it's like worth almost $400 now. So I'm like, what in the world is that's like the first time that's ever happened for me, that I've actually had money that was still there and was worth more money than it was when I put it there. Because savings accounts don't pay anything. So even if you hold on to it, it's worth what, 2 cents more, So that was kind of just like an exciting little push that, because I got really scared when everybody was like, oh, the stock market is tanking. And I was like, there goes my $300. I should have bought new shoes, So it was really nice to see that it's actually earned money instead of losing money. So that was an exciting little push.
Yeah, well, it'll go all over the place. So,
Yeah.
and as we were talking about this, I was thinking in my head, it's like maybe we just close out that little account, 300, and put it towards a credit card. But I think it's important that you have an investment account. That is the seed of long-term savings. So,
and it's just exciting, It's just, even if it only changes by $1, it's still exciting. And I kind of need that excitement about money that I hold on to, because I'm very excited to spend my money. I'm very excited to buy things for people or do things for people. So it's exciting. It's just good to have that little bit of excitement about that account. So
that's interesting. And that's something to think about. And maybe you cue in on, and this may be goals for after you get these initial things done, is the excitement. Think of the excitement of, like you talked about saving 40 or 50%, and you could change that to a dollar amount of, I want to have this much saved by the end of the year, and create excitement around that. Yeah. And that's not connected to whether the markets go up and down or anything else, right?
Right.
So the key is to figure out those things. Oh, I get excited when this happens, so I need to set up a system to encourage me. Like for me, I'm silly. I like fountain pens, right? And so when I have free money, I might want to buy one. But what I try to do is tie these to a goal, right? When I get this completed, I will treat myself to a fountain pen. So maybe set up a system that way. But that may be a conversation for another time.
Yeah. Only do so much in a short period of time.
Well, the key is focus on one thing. It's when we get distracted that it gets really...
Yes.
So you have your one or two things. Right?
Yes.
All right. Well, it was great meeting you. I'm not sure if we chat again, but if you need anything, let me know. And maybe the podcast might be of help to you.
Yes, I will be listening.
Okay. All right. Have a great morning.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and I'm excited to keep moving forward.
Brad, as I was listening to this episode, the phrase financial literacy came to mind just because Carol very pointedly said, I am financially illiterate. That is a self-description there, but she's willing to learn. She's willing to lean in. And to me, that's the key right there. It's not, I'm financially illiterate, I can't do this. It's like, what if I could? Where would I start?
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, she thought, as she said, she was being a, quote, responsible adult, right, all her life because she was paying her bills. And that's what she was taught at that point, right? And she said she spent every other penny otherwise, and it just went away. And, she woke up in her mid-50s and realized, I want something different for my life. And it's really impressive to see someone just try to self-educate. And she said she's been reading blogs and listening to tons of podcasts, and she's looking to take action. And I think that is what she started on already, right? She said for the very, very first time, she's put money into a 401k, which is just so cool. What an amazing win that is, right? She's saving 10% of her income in her 401k. It sounds like with her particular income, she gets, or she's anticipating to get, a significant commission, right? But her base income is sub $40,000, and it sounds like she's stable, which is so wonderful. Like she has this plan that even with this stability, she's saving this 10% and all her bills are covered. But then there's this upside of the commission, which could be another, let's say $20,000 or so, I think is what she alluded to. And she's anticipating that all going to savings. So, I mean, she could have a 30, 40, 50% savings rate really easily because she's created a structure that works for her.
Even as you were saying that, Brad, a couple of things really stood out to me. This idea that I feel like I'm being a responsible adult. But when you do some financial forensics, you find out that you've been okay with credit card payments for 17 years. Like that hasn't been something that you have questioned. It's just it's just what you do as a responsible adult. You make your minimum payments on time. That's what responsible adults do. As a society, have we gotten to the point where we don't question that? And this is Carol's had that realization. She's working towards fixing it. I'm wondering if someone is listening to this because maybe someone shared this episode with a friend or family member. If you don't question that, we have to question these types of things. What we want to do, and this is kind of what Roger was helping her work through, is what is the baseline of what your life actually costs? What does steady state actually look like for you? And here's why it's really important. In Carol's case, we find out that she can pay all of her bills with a little bit left over. She's putting that extra money into her 401k. She's optimizing her things. But as of right now, she knows how much her life actually costs. And here's why it's critical. If she kind of always just has fear about money, if she has deprivation about money, then if she wants to spend money so it doesn't disappear later, then what do you think the action would be the next time she does, in this perfect scenario, get this amazing commission? It would be to spend it, because who knows when it could just disappear to bills, et cetera. It'd just be to spend it. But now, in this new world in which we're moving into, we know that the credit card debt is a problem, that it's an indicator of bad financial habits. And if we get too casual with it, it will outlive us, right? That's one. We're not okay with that anymore. Two, we know we have enough for our finances. We've already started making the right steps to get something into our emergency fund. We know we're already at steady state. What does that do with that whole deprivation mindset when it comes to, I've got this commission of some amount, and we don't know from this conversation explicitly how much the credit card debt is, and we may not be exactly sure about the commission amount because it's fluid, right? But it sounds like with whatever she gets, there would be an easy path for her to pay this off. This past self might just squirrel onto it because you just don't know, because you don't know what your next action step would be. But now, as a result of this conversation, we know on so many levels the psychological win from getting rid of that credit card debt that you've just been okay with for years is going to be life-changing. Now that minimum payment is gone, that actual balance is gone, what's the next thing you're going to want to put your money to? Maybe this first step was, do I get something towards my 401k or my Roth 401k? Now, maybe we're thinking more aggressively, what does it look like for me to start considering maxing out one of these vehicles? And now that we have that, and we've also taken a look at what our life actually costs, we figured out if there's anything we want to optimize there. Maybe we're spending more time looking at the earn more side, but we're doing it with the confidence of every dollar we earn now has been optimized. And it's going to go toward our future goals, not just to retire someday and hopefully it'll be okay, but here's a concrete plan of how to get there.
Yeah, and I love how you described action steps, because that's really what Roger was talking about, is breaking this down into small, tangible, but concrete things. And Carol was describing how it's, quote, exciting to save in her account, right? This is someone who's had a deprivation mindset with money her entire life. And now it's exciting to see those accounts go up. And there might be other behavioral things that she can do to encourage moving forward. Like you said, maybe it'll be exciting that first time that she maxes out her 401k. That would be a cool goal throughout the year to work on. And that is a 1 year concrete thing. And she's going to hit that, crush it. And then who knows what that next exciting thing is, right? It might be the very first time you have a 6-month emergency fund, right? Think about how much less stress you have when you have that. So it sounds like, from what Roger was describing, like the biggest action step she can take is, let's kill that credit card debt unquestionably, and then automatically come up with a plan to save money. Because again, we want to take our brains out of this as much as possible. I think our brains really screw us up when it comes to, oh, I'll save, maybe next month I'll save. Or who knows, that turns into 2, 3, 5 months down the road and you spent all that money, right? That's what a lot of us do. But if you pay yourself first, right? That's the phrase that you hear very often, which just means you're making this automatic. You're making the transfer automatic when that money comes in. So you don't even have the ability to frivolously waste this, right? You're setting up a system that your brain cannot get in the way of. So yeah, it sounds like Carol has a lot of just very specific things to move forward with. And Jonathan, it sounds like she's going to rock this.
She is, man. It's really cool. And I love that this is a longitudinal study, because we're going to be able to follow up with her. And as a group, hopefully we're able to support her. We're able to hold her accountable. We're able to give her away. Like what she's doing for herself, it isn't just transforming her own life. It's having a trickle-down effect already to the next generation, to her kids? What does it look like when these are the new money lessons that she's passing down? The stability and the security that she's establishing for herself gets passed down to her daughter as well. And she can say, don't wait, start now. Let me show you how. And here's the first step. So I was massively encouraged by this episode and for our community to experience this. And I hope that we recognize that, this community, the ChooseFI community, the financial independence community, we are not a path of perfect people. We're a community of people that are willing to focus on 1% improvement and excited to share our journey with others. All right, guys, the fire is spreading. We'll see you next time as we continue to go down the road less traveled.
You've been listening to ChooseFI Radio Podcast, where we help middle-class America build wealth, one life hack at a time.